that be?
All right.
Yes. No commercial?
You know what? Actually, I think we should do one.
Okay.
Apologize.
Sorry. That's so professional.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, happy Friday and welcome to yet another episode of The Week That Was, the zombie vestigial limb of Deadline Detroit that refuses to die, or as we know it, 7 boomers, in search of a joke. I'm Nancy Derringer. I'm Nancy Derringer, sometimes described as veteran journalist, although I've been retired for a while now and I'm pretty much just a freelance whatever. Sitting in for Saeed Khan, who has once again pulled out the old chestnut of faculty meetings so that he can't actually do the job here. But anyway, I'm glad that you've joined us, if you've joined us, and let's get started with the introduction of the panel. To my left, which is, I believe, stage right, is labor and community activist Barb Ingalls. We have public relations specialist Beverly Watts. We have 2 of our usual troika of lawyers. Steve Fishman is off golfing, but we have Joel Sklar. And coming to us from that other Eden, that sceptered isle, the Cotswolds in faraway England, we have Bill Seikaly, who's going to show us some roses in the cottage that he's staying in. In the center square, automotive journalist Paul Eisenstein from the editor-in-chief of, is it Headlight News?
Headlight.news.
Headlight.news. Clever play on words there. And holding us all up on his broad shoulders is Deadline Detroit co-founder Allan Lengel. And as usual, the news has been like standing in a fire hose of sludge for the last 7 days. I mean, we got a little bit of a break over Labor Day weekend, but not much of one. I was working all Labor Day weekend on something else. But so if I'm a little shaky on my show prep, I'm going to count on the rest of you guys to hold me up here. Why don't we start with the most recent item on our list today, which is RFK, or as he introduces himself on Instagram, "This is Robert Kennedy, your HHS secretary." And he appeared before, I believe, the Senate Finance Committee. I know it's cruel to make fun of people's disabilities, but the president has assured us it's okay. So that's why I'm doing it. He appeared before, I believe, the Senate Finance Committee yesterday to answer some questions about his stewardship of the Department of Health and Human Services so far. It was a testy exchange. And Allan, I believe we have some video.
Let's clear this up right now, Secretary Kennedy. Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
All right. And that was a fairly tame exchange.
Yes.
I saw a highlight reel and there was a lot of yelling. And from both parties, from both Democrats and Republicans on this committee, with a couple of notable exceptions. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, aka the dumbest man in the United States Senate, was there to kind of Barb? What? He was there to bolster his boy. Yeah, he was there to bolster his boy, but for the most part, there were some pretty pissed off people in this.
Yeah, but Nancy, did you hear him say the vaccine was for, not for healthy people?
Yeah, I mean, apparently we're only supposed to give vaccines to sick people now after they've gotten sick.
I know.
I mean, go figure. But anyway, anybody want to take it away, Bill?
I like the exchange in which, and I can't remember which senator it was, as I said here, said, you're harming people. He said, how am I harming anybody? And he said, well, look, we have people dying of measles. Hasn't happened in 20 years, and it's on your watch. And that, the one thing you've got to say about Kennedy, I don't think this is positive. He didn't budge an inch. He lied through his through the hearings when he was trying to get confirmed.
Yeah,
he lied mightily during those confirmation hearings. But now he won't back down, not an inch. He is, I think, putting the people of America's health in jeopardy, and shame on everyone who voted to confirm him, because it was obvious what was really going to happen.
He's putting the health of the people at the CDC in jeopardy, because it was just a couple weeks ago we had a mass shooting there.
Exactly.
And a police officer died. Something like 500 rounds were fired by this lunatic who was upset about the COVID vaccine. He was convinced that he had been poisoned by this. And how was he convinced of this? By bullshit spread by people like Bobby Kennedy and his ilk.
Yeah, and I think this is the iceberg, because we going into cold and flu season. It's going to get even worse. With him not even advocating for vaccines from pneumonia to measles, like you were saying, from the flu. But I think what he did, and I agree with Bill yesterday, he clearly showed that he is not qualified for this position.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that there are starting to be some Republicans who are saying enough already. We can't take this. Of course, these are the Susan Collins type of Republicans who fret and sweat when they actually don't have to do anything. Whether there would be at some point, perhaps this winter, we see a surge in deaths, rise in measles, and so on. Whether they would actually then take action to remove him from office is another matter. What that clip, what we saw stated in that clip, is already beginning to come true, in that we're starting to see MAGA states pull back.
Yes.
Nowhere is that more apparent than in Florida, where you have an absolutely nutty head of their medical operations saying that they are going to stop recommending any childhood vaccines.
Requiring them. But
requiring them, yes.
Yeah.
And I think Texas is following suit. I think
of course
Texas
it is.
Is doing the next thing.
You have to remember that Texas and Florida are in an active race to the bottom. And then you have the folks in Alabama and Mississippi who are basically just saying, oh, don't forget us. We're going to also follow you.
Exactly. They're the relatives.
Well, and the other thing that's happened is we have almost a form of health secession, in that Oregon, Washington, and California and Hawaii now are forming their own kind of vaccine advisory group. I forget what they're calling it, the West Coast something or other. And they're going to take their vaccine recommendations from medical groups as opposed to the CDC. So yet another fracture in a country that, for all of his wailing about, we're the sickest country in the world. I mean, it sounds great coming out of his mouth in that voice, but, generally speaking, America, I mean, we've got our life expectancy is pretty long. Is there room for improvement? God, yes, there's tons of room for improvement. But, at this point, it's just, he's splitting the CDC apart.
Nancy, I got to stop you. Our life expectancy isn't that good. I don't believe we're anywhere near the top 10 in terms of global life expectancy.
And is it all because of Fritos?
It's interesting to me. I have actually seen a few healthcare professionals who like some of what he's doing, and you surprisingly, polls show that his MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is connecting with many people in the public. It's actually probably has a higher poll rating than does Trump, because a lot of people are upset about a few of the legitimate things, and I say a few legitimate things that he's worried about, namely the additives, food additives.
Right. Yeah, right. And I mean,
I think that I think Paul's right, and I think that if you talk to really some of the longevity experts in this country, one of the things they're going to point to is highly processed foods.
Right.
Highly processed foods the American life expectancy has actually gone down a bit the last couple of years, but I think most people attribute it to highly processed food. The other thing I wanted to say is, the most amazing thing about that clip to me, Alan, was when he said, "There's no evidence to back it up. Is that what you want me to approve?" No, I just want you to listen to experts and not fire them if they say something you don't want.
Right.
Because that's what's going on.
Well, the lack of access to healthcare in this country. Excuse me, I sounded like RFK for a second there. The lack of healthcare access in the United States is also killing us. And it's getting harder and harder to do it. And that's one of the reasons, even in England, where they are doing everything they can to dismantle the NHS, they still have a better shot at it. Right across the river in Windsor, people are living longer because they can go to any doctor they want. All the bullshit about waiting lists clearly has not tried to get a primary care appointment in the United States, even if you have health care. There's a lot of reasons that Americans are dying earlier, and diet is one, but if you can't go to the doctor, you're not going to live very long.
I just want to say, there should be some consequence to people lying at these confirmation hearings.
Yeah.
I mean, people are entitled to change their minds, but when it's clear they've lied just to get the confirmation, we saw that with Kash Patel, we saw that with Pam Bondi, vowing that they wouldn't, go after anyone on behalf
several Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, the Supreme Court justices and stuff like that. There should be some line where you say, you know what, you're subject to impeachment if it's clear that you lied just to get this job. And we're seeing it so often with this administration. There's just blatant lies during the confirmation hearing.
Well, this is interesting because it kind of brings up something my husband and I were talking about today. And, my husband said, I think he's not long for this world. I think that Kennedy is going to end up being fired. But if there's one thing we know about Donald Trump, it's that he never admits a mistake. Okay. And it would have to be some sort of engineered exit where, Bobby says, I'm sorry, I've been offered a spectacular position somewhere else and I'm going to have to resign. But he's not going to get fired. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah, in a way, I agree with you. But then you look at the Trump and some of the decisions he's made. It's all about him. You're absolutely right. He could look at it and say he messed up. He's always going to say he's messed up, but he's out of here. What he's not going to do is let something linger on too long, especially when you have the healthcare people standing up for him to resign, and this just keep going on and on. He'll throw him under the bus in a minute.
Well,
I'm not so sure he doesn't like it.
You've got to remember something. First of all, his policies align in some key ways with Trump, but there's a more important issue that is protecting him. He has mastered the art of brown nosing. During yesterday's session, if I recall,
all of them have.
He brought up the idea that Trump deserves a Nobel Prize for having pushed to develop the vaccinations that Kennedy doesn't want us to have.
Yeah.
Which is ludicrous.
Speaking of Nobel Prize, can we play this little? This is a hysterical video.
Fixated on the physical appearance of the troops.
This
wrong.
Got to be part of a.
Whoops, I'm sorry, Kennedy. Okay.
Got to be part of a big meeting in Washington, D.C. Christy?
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor.
Thank you for saving college football, by the way. We're all very grateful.
You are the single finest candidate since this Nobel Award was ever talked about. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want you to know sometimes when I watch you striding across the White House lawn so confidently, with so much masculinity, I'll admit it, I get sexually aroused. Thank you for breathing life back into my once slumbering penis.
That was very well stated,
The Nobel Peace Prize. Jesus.
Nobel
I mean, it's like, ugh. Before we let this go, I want to. You guys are all correct. American life expectancy is not that great compared to the rest of the world. I was thinking, generally speaking, if you make it past 70, you're into not quite into the postseason. I would say the postseason begins at like 80, 85, but still, it's you can have a good run if you take care of yourself. And the thing that I find most interesting and scary about the MAHA movement is they've got a point when they say, yes, we should be eating better. No, we should not be eating all these, highly processed foods. Cook for yourself more, cook for your children more, eat more vegetables. All of that is fine. But then you see these people, and it seems like every last one of them is peddling some kind of supplement. Let's do powdered. Let's turn dark leafy greens into powder, and then you can stir them into a glass of water, and it'll taste disgusting, but it'll be like eating 4 pounds of spinach. I mean, it's crazy, and I just can't. I can't get behind that stuff. I mean, I think if you just generally take care of your health, don't drink too much, wear your seatbelt, don't smoke, you should be, absent like really bad genetics or just a stroke of terrible luck, I think you'll generally be okay.
No, Nancy, you're absolutely correct, because everything is about profit and a dollar.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say you got to do your own work. Government is not supposed to be your end all in everything. You got to have your own common sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, government doesn't have to tell me to eat more fruits and vegetables and drink more water and do a little exercise.
Right.
So,
I agree, Beverly, but shouldn't that apply to voting too? For God's sakes,
yes,
a little common sense.
Absolutely. Do your research and get out and vote. I mean, every day this week I've been at somebody's community meeting, and that's the whole thing we've been saying. You got to vote, especially to Detroiters. You got to get out and vote and do your research. This is not something that you can just skip over. So you're right.
You raised a very interesting point. Research. And this is one of the biggest problems we face. You probably know I was one of the earliest publishers on the web. I started my first website, The Car Connection, in '96. And we had great hope for being able to use the web to provide clear and accurate information.
Right.
It's anything but. And there are few common sources of information that Americans share. There's no more Huntley Brinkley, no more Walter Cronkite, no even 60 Minutes has a very narrow audience today. And unfortunately, people no longer search for accurate information.
Right.
They do their research to support their biases. And this may be the single greatest problem we face in America. Actually, I could argue in the world, because we have now developed the means by which we can send information, false or otherwise, to those we want to target. And there's a significant percentage of the population, some of them seemingly quite smart, who are looking for support rather than clarification.
There are 1,000 ways to game search results and to push your bullshit to the top of the Google search. Well, now Google's been completely ruined by AI, or at least mostly ruined by AI. But it
lost its power.
Yeah.
So it's ruined, but it's not.
No, but it's not. It still has a great deal of power.
Right. But I want to say I agree with, not to interrupt Nancy, I want to say I
fine.
agree with you, because last night, one of the objectives that we have is not to push anyone either way. We're definitely trying to get them to vote, but do their research. So then we ask them when they vote our opinion, and you're right. Okay, you're so strong against another person or a candidate. And then we ask them, did you have a personal experience? Did you know? And no, they did it because somebody else told them. So that's not research. You know, you're not looking at both sides at all. So you're absolutely correct.
No, and that it only got worse during COVID.
And then AI, you know, who knows? You got to defend and say what's real and what's not.
Okay, let's move on a little bit. Since we have an automotive expert on the panel, we have actually an even more late-breaking story than
I know where you're going.
Encounter. Yeah, exactly. Apparently, the Tesla board of directors has met and is recommending a pay package for Elon Musk of $1 trillion with
Brilliant.
$1 trillion
higher than the Powerball
for Elon Musk. And that is such a jaw-dropping number for a guy who, you know, admits to taking ketamine on the regular. Paul, why don't you brief us on that?
Ketamine. As a matter of fact, I was almost a little bit late because I was racing to get a couple stories out on this. I woke up this morning. I was a little bit tired because I worked till about 1 a.m. And I had that sort of weird, not quite Groundhog Day moment, call it an April Fool's Day moment, because when I opened my browser and saw this, I had to look down and say, wait a second, is this April 1st? But no, it in fact is true. The board of Tesla has approved a package for $1 trillion. Now that's the top. If he doesn't hit his targets, it'll only be, it should be about, I don't know how he can tolerate this, only 87 billion.
Who could survive?
How will they live?
He'd survive. I mean,
How
I
will
just
he
don't know.
die?
How many houses?
I don't know. But yes, the plan is if he meets a whole bunch of targets, this will be $1 trillion in his pocket. Now, let me point out something which is very interesting. That would be about equal to what Tesla's current market capitalization is. As of this morning, and you know it goes up and down rapidly, was about 1.12 trillion. Now, he has to, among other things, get their market cap to 8.5 trillion. And here's the interesting thing. It ain't going to get there selling automobiles. If anything, Tesla is getting it in the neck from more competition, slowing sales, ironically, due to Trump, and the fact that typical EV buyers now hate Elon Musk. He is the arch enemy of the typically liberal buyer. What Tesla has to become is no longer an EV company. The goal is to get Tesla to transform itself, put an emphasis on AI, Optimus robots, which of course we all want our Rosie the robot in our house.
Yeah, everybody wants a robot.
And yes, to a degree, EVs, but they will be serving as robocabs. So in other words, what Tesla has to become for him to make this $1 trillion is to be not the EV company that it has been for the last, 14, 15 years.
Are they is part of the conditions to collect this $1 trillion that he has to show up to work once in a while? Because, you know, he basically took off several months to run Doge. And, you know, at some point he limped out of town saying that he had to pay attention to Tesla again. But, you know, that guy, he's the weirdest man in public life right now. I mean, I think he's even weirder than Donald Trump. I understand he's a criminal, but Elon Musk is just, he's a freak of nature, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad to that. I used to know Musk a bit. We used to text back and forth. He had some journalists that he liked to communicate with, and then he largely cut people off about 5-6 years ago. You may recall he even eliminated the public relations department.
Is that about the time that when you sent a media request to Tesla, the auto reply was a poop emoji? I think they were doing that for a while.
Yeah. He will tell you he's a bit on the spectrum, and I know people who've worked closely with him. I will also say that among those I know who've worked with them very close, we're talking, you know, either direct report or one level down. He's not a particularly ethical man. I had, if you can I use 4-letter words?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure how far I can go. A friend of mine who I can't identify because of all his strict contract language when he left. He told me, I asked him, why did you leave? You left millions of dollars on the table in stock and other benefits. And he said, I couldn't work for him. Why? Ethics. And I said, and he described a whole bunch of stuff I cannot go into. But I said, the irony is, at that time anyway, the general perception of Musk was as a man who was out to save the world. Right. His reply was, Elon Musk wants to save the world. It's the people he doesn't give a fuck about.
Well, he certainly enjoys spreading his semen around like spring, like dandelion seeds in May. But go ahead, Bill.
Reacted, godly knows.
The headline on Gizmodo says he'll get the $1 trillion if he can stay focused. I think
that's pretty funny. Okay, Bill, go ahead.
I think that the ethics issue, Paul, is fascinating to me because I have to wonder about what is the ethics of allowing an individual in this day and age to earn $1 trillion and be taxed like everybody else. Remember, Musk is the guy who worked so closely with Trump to make sure that we got these tax cuts and put it on tariffs rather than individual taxes. You can imagine how much he would save with these tax cuts when he earns $1 trillion. But what are the ethics of an individual in this country having $1 trillion and not paying a substantial portion of that in taxes?
Not only does
I have to ask the question: at what point do we see, as we all know, politics can do weird loops? And we've seen a lot of the folks who should be voting traditional Democratic go over to the right, to MAGA, in frustration and being misled. At what point do we see the left and that MAGA right come back together because people start finally getting it through their head that the oligarchs have completely taken over? I was seeing some numbers yesterday about the percentage of wealth that has gone to the billionaires. And this takes things to a new level. This would be equal to what? The top 15 or 20 billionaires combined. At what point do people realize that they're being sold out, quite literally? And maybe there is pressure to have some sort of restrictions on ultimate wealth.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago, the 50s. I guess that is a long time.
That's a long time, huh?
Well, to individuals, I'm in England, and the historical context is very different here than it is in the United States. It's dramatic. I'll share some of that later, perhaps. But it was in the 50s that Eisenhower, a Republican, a very conservative guy, said we've got to pay for the war, as we spend it, and had taxes in excess of 90% for anybody who had made over $1 million. You made over $1 million, your tax was 90% on everything over $1 million. And you know what? There wasn't a revolution. People didn't take to the streets. The country didn't fall apart, and we didn't have a deficit. Very interesting concepts.
Yeah.
But wasn't that the beginning of the what was the name of the group, the right-wing group that ended up with Barry Goldwater, ended up with the
John Birch Society?
John Birch Society.
Birch Society was born in those days.
Yeah.
Because they were like, they couldn't do anything about it, but they were outraged. And I mean, they, the idea of sharing that money. I mean, if you look at we're going to probably talk about it later, but the suggested tax on fun that Detroit wants, that the city wants to levy on sports events and music events, they want to add a little tax on it. I thought it was.
Tell me more about this. Like I said, I've been in and out of the news this week, so.
Okay, so there's a tax has been proposed on all entertainment within the city of Detroit, and that means.
What if you don't have a good time? What if the concert?
We cannot have a good time because, and then on Faces or Facebook, which is always fun. Somebody said, "Well, what if we just hear me out? What if we tax the Dan Dilliches and Dan Gilbert what they should be taxed?" And people lost their minds. Well, they worked hard for their money. Mike Gilbert's ate every single damn pizza until he was a billionaire. Come on.
No, nobody else ever works hard, you know. So
Nobody
else works hard.
And you know, you always know that the idiots are going to pop up in the comments, which is why you should never read comments on anything in newspapers or anywhere else. But people just piled on the idea that our precious billionaires who are there for us all the time. So enjoy your extra $3 for a Tiger game that you can't afford per ticket that you can't afford anyway.
You know what they want to charge? $3?
I think something like that. It's stupid.
I mean, I'd be okay with $1. I mean, when you look at the concert tickets these days, I mean, just an average seat, like see a comedian at the Fox is like $80 or whatever. So if $81, nobody would be like, you know, but it starts $3 starts to be a little bit more.
Do you think Olympia Entertainment really needs that extra dollar?
No, I don't.
No, they don't need it, but the
city.
That's who's going to get it. The performer's not going to get it.
Well, the
people that work at the Fox aren't going to get it. The people that work at Tiger Stadium aren't going to get it.
This is why the Detroit Jazz Festival is a great event, because it is the one big music event in Detroit that anybody can walk in and not pay a dime. So there we go.
It's true.
Trying to raise some money to keep it that way. So keep it free. Anyway. So okay.
So
well,
anyway,
since we're back in the local arena, let's talk a little bit about Mike Rogers running for Senate. Excuse me?
Commercial.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, I'm always glad to know that Eric Sabri is on my side. So, anyway, Mike Rogers running for Senate for the seat that's going to be vacated next year, I believe, by Gary Peters.
Yep.
Kind of dropped this in the middle of, I don't know, maybe he just needed to grab a headline or something, but he said that Mike Duggan should ask Donald Trump to send the National Guard to the city of Detroit to fight crime, to essentially do what all of the mayors of the city. Well, I was going to say the mayor of DC seems to think this is a good idea, but certainly not the mayor of Chicago, certainly not the mayor of New Orleans. He believes that we should send the National Guard into the city of Detroit to fight crime. And
certainly not any legal scholar.
Excuse me?
Certainly not any legal scholar supports the idea. Federal troops in the cities. Jesus, this is crazy.
He's just trying to grab some headlines because maybe the polling is showing something. I think it was just a headline grabber.
Mike Rogers should visit Detroit.
But while we're on that subject, though, I mean, one of the things that became very clear as soon as the troops arrived in Washington, which was, of course, the first city to have this happen to it, was they were sent to places like the memorials, the National Mall, which if you've ever been to DC are some of the safest areas for tourists. I mean, you could walk with $100 bills hanging out of your pocket down the National Mall, and somebody would probably tap you on the shoulder and say, "You have $100 bills hanging out of your pocket." Nobody's going to stick a gun in your face. Crime happens in neighborhoods, and how are these guys standing around with all the shit on, all the tactical crap and the big guns and everything, going to stop crime? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if they came to Detroit, you would see them standing next to the big tigers outside Comerica Park. They'd be at Ford Field. They'd be outside Little Caesars Arena, but they wouldn't be at the Murdomac out at 96 and whatever. I can't remember where the Murdomac was, Lengel. But anyway, I mean, how do reasonable people get the idea that this is somehow a good thing? Allan?
I think it's a whole interesting thing. I think when politicians say, oh, leave us alone. Crime is down. I don't think that's the answer to say crime is down.
No, I don't either.
The answer is yes, we need more help. We want more task forces. We want FBI agents, ATF agents working with the Detroit Police Department. We want to take down gangs. We want to take down gun violence. We want to work with you. Yes, we need help because any crime is too much crime. But to do it in the way with the troops, and you're right about, look, that Trump is trying to portray, DC, like you can't walk down the street. I mean, I usually go there twice a year, and it's like I walk around at night. I go to restaurants. I do whatever. I lived there for more than 14 years. I never was a victim of a crime.
Right.
And not to discount the thing, because I covered crime and I was on the other side of the river sometimes, or in Northeast. There were shootings all the time. I did a ride along with a cop once, and right across the street on like Alabama Avenue, there was a guy shot, dying on the sidewalk. We ran over there. The guy was just, foaming at the mouth. So there is crime, but let's not, be.
Crime. One of the things that you have to know by the time you reach, shall we say, the age of 40, is that complex problems never have simple solutions. If you want to reduce crime, you have to intercede almost at the level of infancy. You need kids that have enough heat. You need, houses that have enough heat and cooling. You need schools where they actually take an interest in each student. You have to have jobs. You have to have alternatives to joining gangs, to hanging out on corners, to selling drugs, whatever. And that's not something that just happens, with a guy with a big lunk holding a flak, in a flak jacket and a rifle. Bill.
And everybody knows that, Nancy.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that, which is evidence that they don't mean it.
Right. Of course.
The fact of the matter is Trump sent these troops in for show. Yeah. It's the same reason that the Navy blew up a boat that allegedly had drugs on it, headed to the United States off the coast of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. I mean, tell me that they couldn't have boarded that ship. Of course they could have. We wanted to make a point. He wants to be a strong man, and he's doing everything he can to prove that he is.
Well, and if you soften up the population to the point where they get used to seeing these guys standing on street corners, then when we have our next election, assuming we have one, nobody's going to say boo when they're standing outside a polling place in case a Chinese student from University of Michigan comes in to cast a ballot. So
when I worked at the Washington Post, I covered one night. It was a Friday night. They had a program, and I don't know if it's still going on, where they had the National Guard set up like an encampment on a block in DC that was a lot of like crack dealers and stuff like that. They'd put up floodlights. Kids would come out for one night. You'd see the dope dealers at the end of the block, just kind of hanging out, not doing anything. And then they were gone, and then it was back to the same stuff.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's like, and then we have people like Rush Limbaugh, popping a blood vessel over the idea of midnight basketball. So
I just have to say,
go ahead.
Beverly. I was going to say, Bill is absolutely correct. That was what I was going to say. It's just for show, and coming from a person who's going for a particular board, but it's about reform. Because what you do is have him come in there, and they'll have the show. They'll have him come unarmed. They'll make all this marketing and PR that they're coming. But if you really, really want to solve it, and I agree with you too, Allan, crime has been up not only in Detroit, I believe in certain areas, one-on-one, but across the nation. So everyone does need more resources, but what they need is collaboration. What about coming here and sending his team here and talking, not only Detroit, but a lot of other cities across the country to come up with real solutions instead of just coming out with this dog and pony show that I'm sending military there. They come in, get the buzz, and then they're gone. Right. What have you solved?
What about the Venezuelan thing? Do we have some video on that?
We do.
Okay. My question is, how is this legal? I mean, it's
not. It's not. And before you go, that's one of the amazing things when I was preparing for the show, and a lot of what I saw and pulled up wasn't America press. It was BBC and
right.
a lot of foreign press.
Sure.
That's right. But if you compare what the press was in the States and here, the BBC only talked about the fact that this was a violation of international law. It was all they talked about, and they were interviewing experts from the States and other parts of the world. But clearly, this was a violation of international law. It was also a violation of domestic law. How in the hell do we have the Wars Powers Act anymore?
I guess not.
Isn't the president supposed to get some kind of consent once he declares war?
Well, but this whole thing, first of all, they describe these people in this boat as terrorists. Okay?
They may be migrants. I mean, there were 11 people on that boat, and a boat that's taking drugs, they want few people and a shitload of drugs.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense that this was a boat carrying drugs, quite frankly. There's no evidence to support that. The evidence is contrary to that.
Well, actually, the ocean.
President Trump posted a video yesterday on Truth Social that appears to show a U.S. military strike on a boat carrying drugs in the Caribbean, a move that was very pleasing to Donald Trump and very upsetting to Donald Trump.
So, but was there any attempt to recover wreckage? The stuff that floats after something like that, so that we could have even a little bit of evidence that this is actually true. I mean, is there anything in there?
You get a victory dance, and it's like the guy that allegedly tried to assassinate Trump, magically gone.
Disappeared.
We know nothing. We got
no
nothing.
investigation.
Right.
Manchurian candidate. That worked.
Yes, exactly. So, all right. Let's see. What do we want to move on to now? I see. Well, it wouldn't be a Week That Was episode if we weren't talking at least a little bit about Gaza. And apparently the president is looking at a plan to pay Gazans $5,000 to leave Gaza for 10 years while he and his developer friends, Jared Kushner in particular, rebuild the Gaza Strip as the Riviera of the Middle East, which is so morally reprehensible to even be discussing. It is kind of breathtaking.
It's absurd.
Exactly. It's absurd. It's disgusting. It's so many adjectives all at one time. And yet, this is something that's happening. Go ahead, Alan.
The problem is that Trump doesn't have a real plan. Netanyahu doesn't have a real plan. So they come up with these asinine things that are not only not realistic, but is just long-term a disaster and short-term a disaster as well. I mean, it's insane.
But all designed around one thing: eliminating the Palestinian people. They want to. You send them away for 10 years. It's going to be like the Armenians. They won't exist. Get rid of them. This is the ultimate solution. This is. I'm sorry. I think the Jewish people are better than this, but the Israeli government does not appear to be. This is genocide. This is elimination of a people.
Yeah.
And I don't see how you can call it anything else.
No, I don't disagree with you at all, Bill. I think it is. And it's again, I've said this before. For me to see this has been eye-opening and incredibly disappointing. I'm glad my father's not alive to see it, quite frankly, because I don't think he could reconcile it and would be completely devastated.
I just have I can't even imagine the concept of turning it into a Riviera. First of all, just covering up all the destruction over hundreds of square miles. And then you're going to do what? Build just along a little bit of the edge along the water. You're going to have these things, so people will have to be brought in outside so they don't see what's going on. And that there will be significant terrorist, if you want to use that term, attacks on anything that is built.
Right.
Well, I mean, Trump has a history of failed plans, so if he puts a casino up there, it's going to literally explode.
I just can imagine like some future, Kushner grandchild digging in the sand saying, "Mommy, Daddy, I found a human foot." So I just, the idea of this blood, literally soaked in blood, region being turned into some kind of resort it's just disgusting, and I don't understand why it's.
Listen, you can make the hotel. I mean, it's the same disgust. It's like, again, it's using a concentration camp for a fun time. It is disgusting. It's sickening. It's counterintuitive. This is just maddening. And I think, again, these statements are just distractions. They're just to get us talking. There's no reality to that.
But it's all about profit. It goes back to the same thing: money, money, money for the rich.
And Joel, I'm not so sure that this is just talk. I have become absolutely convinced that the plan at least between Netanyahu and Trump is to remove the Palestinians from Gaza. Whether it's for $5,000 each, or whether it's to push them out and make other Arab countries take them, or whatever it is, I think they're going to de-Palestinianize Gaza, and that is genocide. It is getting rid of our culture. It is getting rid of our people. It is disgusting, and people, at least the general population of the United States, doesn't seem to be very bothered by it.
But the European nations are, and I'm not so sure they're going to stand for it.
I agree. I agree. Being over here has become enlightening to me, Joe.
Correct. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the European Union, again, they're becoming more strong because we're basically self-embargoing ourselves, right? We're making it restrictive to be here. That European nation, or that European Union is formidable, and they are very supportive of the Gazans, very critical of Israel. And so I think that causes a little bit of a problem with Trump's and Netanyahu's plans.
Joel, you just hit on something very important.
My mistake.
The basic elimination of the United States as both a moral authority and a power player.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, if even if you are someone who does not believe that Trump is doing bidding of Putin, and there is reason to believe that may be true. But even if you don't believe it at all, what we are seeing is Trump doing everything possible to minimize as much as possible any role the United States will have going forward. We sure will have a huge military. They talk about spending cuts. Doge didn't touch the Pentagon. We will basically be a rogue nation that just goes out, blows up fishing boats that may or may not be carrying drugs. But we won't really be playing any significant role in trying to come to some functionality of the world. We saw a sign of that in the conference that just took place between Modi.
Yep.
Putin,
I was just going to say, you have this is a perfect segue into the fact that that Russia, China, and India just had their own summit that did not include the United States. Can you imagine that happening during the Obama administration, during even the Biden administration?
And especially after Trump kissed his ass, rolled out the red carpet for the guy, brought him to Alaska, just told him he was the greatest man on the face of the earth. And the guy just said, "Fuck you," essentially. And is, I don't care what the hell you say, you're an idiot.
Doing whatever he wants. Yeah.
Right, do whatever the hell he wants. And making Trump look like a fool.
Yes.
Which was followed up by long-range bombings into Ukraine, which resulted in Poland scrambling its air force. The potential disaster there with Russians going across Poland's airspace and invoking Article 9 of NATO.
Right.
Yeah.
And thumbing his nose at Trump. I mean, you couldn't imagine a more blatant snub to Trump by Putin than that.
Especially if he was left out. I mean, the fact that Trump was left out of this is killing Trump. He's not big boy at the big boys table.
There was a story, and I think either the Times or the Post, about how Modi in India has had it with Trump, because Trump keeps talking about how I solved your India-Pakistan problem. Why don't you nominate me for a Nobel Peace Prize, or as they say at the cabinet meeting, a Nobel Prize? And, and you know, this is something
noble about him.
Yeah, exactly. This is something he desperately wants. And Modi is like furious about this because he's like, you settled nothing, you fat tub of lard. I mean, what do you say to something like that?
And you're imposing the embargoes. People are or the tariffs.
The 50% tariff on India because they're using Russian oil.
They're like, we don't have to do business with the U.S. Let's get together. Let's see what our options are. Let's do with China.
Exactly
let's do with Korea. Let's go, whatever. We don't need your bullshit. If you keep jamming it up our ass every time, we're going to find another way to do business.
And no matter who's the next president, they're going to carry this burden with them. This is going to be a yoke around the United States' neck for a generation to come.
Yes.
Nobody is going to believe we keep our word anymore.
Here's a key point, Bill. You just hit on something. The world seemed to be willing to say, okay, you guys screwed up. Everybody's allowed a mulligan. You voted for Trump in 2016, and you learned, you got rid of him. Biden was viewed, even as he showed increasing feebleness, he was viewed as a great president by the world. Then you vote this guy back in.
Exactly.
And he is the one who's clearly feeble and angry. I mean, I've been around Alzheimer's patients. My mom went through it for 7 years. Right. And he is clearly showing a dementia pattern. Mm-hmm. And the worst part is that feebleness enables others who want to use him to get their own agenda out, particularly Stephen Miller. Ugh. So what we have is the worst of what could happen when you have somebody in a position of power with dementia.
Yeah, and same with Kennedy. Same with Kennedy as well. That's why I think that nobody needs to worry about Bobby Kennedy losing his job for a while, because it'll just be another shiny object. It'll be burped out of the Oval Office too. Before we moved on, people who watch the show probably don't understand how we do this fine, incredibly slick professional product every week. And part of it is that Saeed collects topics for the first part of the week, and then he sends us all a list so that we can all be kind of read up on what we're going to talk about. But I almost had to laugh when I saw number 7 on the list. Leading international genocide scholars organization says Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, because I heard it on NPR like day before yesterday. And because it being NPR and everybody has to be fair, it said the Israeli government denied the accusation. It was like, oh, thanks.
Okay.
All right. Let's do one more before we go to the final segment. Let's talk about Michigan for a minute. We're barreling toward a government shutdown. The state legislature has about a month to adopt a budget, and so far, the Republicans are digging in their heels. And what do we think?
It's so bad. It's so bad. And we were talking about health and longevity, and they are proposing massive cuts in all of healthcare across the board, Medicare, Medicaid. They're cutting school funding. They're cutting state police funding by billions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars.
Infrastructure?
No, roads. We want roads. Apparently, it's all going to roads. But instead of taking care of the people, the most precious people that we have in this country, which is our children, and in the state of Michigan, all of that money is being taken away. And that is, they're going to be closing hospitals in northern Michigan. The few that are left are going to be closed. I don't even know what to say to this. This is so insane. I tried to post a JPEG that I have, and the comments wouldn't let me, but I had it broken down from Michigan Advance and the Bridge, and it's of course, it's the FBI, $66 billion from the Department of State Police. So, that's why we're going to need to import the National Guard to keep the peace.
66 million, not billion. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
That the state police
million from the Department of State Police.
Yeah, I think you said billion before, but that's fine.
I said at the top of it billion, 1.4 billion.
And the thing that struck me about this, there was a story in the Detroit News this week about Matt Hall, who's the Speaker of the House, a Republican. The head of the hospital, the State Hospital Association, the nonprofit that advocates for lobbies for hospitals in Lansing, came after him and spoke very bluntly about what this was going to do to healthcare, particularly in northern Michigan, which is disproportionately elderly. And, there's quite a few wealthy people in Traverse City, but there are an awful lot of poor people in the Upper Peninsula and elsewhere in the northern Lower Peninsula. No. And he came after him, and he came after him in such Trumpian fashion. He said something like, what's his name? Like he didn't know his name. Not a good leader. And then he said, you should be thanking us for giving you what we're giving you. Another Trumpian kind of trope that he does. It's amazing how these single A players, are trying to get to the big leagues by sounding exactly like the big boss, with his dementia and
but then they're cutting, just like Barb said, they're cutting all the funding in a massive amount to the healthcare, but then on the national level you're not even pushing vaccines. I mean, it's like, what are you trying to do? Just kill all of us off, especially the poor and middle class, and not even the poor. Middle class, anyone's not a billionaire. We just want you to go.
Okay,
and
Bill?
you're on your own. You're literally on your own.
Bill.
Saeed and I have one thing in common. Unfortunately, he's not here today, and that is that we learn a lot from taxi drivers when we travel. And so I was in a taxi, I think it was yesterday, in which a guy admitted to me that he voted for Brexit, and he thought Trump would be a good idea. And he said, "Boy, he clearly is not a Trumparian, because he said, boy, was I wrong about both." He said, look, I don't know what the solutions to the government. I thought this guy was pretty profound. He said, I don't know what the solution is. Everybody feels overtaxed. We're paying too much in taxes. Everybody agrees on that. But, this Trump guy, he's very mean-spirited. These policies are not just aggressive. They're mean. He's a mean man. Cool. And I said, we agree. And he said, I've only in the last year only driven 2 Trump supporters from America, and he said they were both mean and they hated Biden. Look, I mean, I thought Biden was kind of old and he was kind of feeble, but I didn't think he was a mean, vicious man. And Trump is.
I thought Trump voters only went on vacation on Carnival cruises and to Disneyland maybe. But
first of all, I thought the exact same thing, but the number of Americans in the Cotswold is amazing. I mean, last night we were at dinner in a restaurant and there were 4 tables in our area. All 4 tables were from the States. So there are a lot of Americans that come here. It's a
maybe
big
they're the only ones who can afford it. So all right. Alan, I think it's time to go to our final segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
A surfeit of schmucks, as always, this week. Who wants to start? Paul, do you have a nominee?
Oh, I've got to give the highlight to Elon Musk this week. Total lack of sensitivity. I'm hoping that the numbers are so big that maybe it finally gets people to say there is a limit to how rich people should be.
I think that's fair. I once heard an oligarch joke about 2 Russian oligarchs that were at a party, and one said, Sergey, that is a beautiful tie that you're wearing. And he says, oh, I got it at Hermes in Paris, and I paid 400 euros for it. And he says, but I think your tie is rather nice too. And he said, oh, well, I also bought my tie at Hermes, only I paid 600 euros for it. Sorry about that. Bill, let's let you get back to the pink roses and the beautiful cottages of the Cotswolds. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I want to give it to the United States government. I have not ever in my life imagined that we would have an entire government that would be so dismissive of the American people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see today. To watch the cabinet meeting, to listen to how people take the knee, to listen to how the president talks about helping Netanyahu eliminate the Palestinian people. I am heartbroken by our government, and so the entire U.S. government becomes my schmuck of the week.
Wow, even the civil service guys, if there are any left.
Well, here's my problem. I don't know of any left. I mean, I don't know anybody who's been able to hang in. And my brothers live in D.C. I know a lot of folks in D.C. Many of them, most of them, have taken their retirement, gotten out, or been fired. Mm-hmm. I mean, the people at the CDC that I know don't exist there anymore.
I want a T-shirt that says "Big Balls had it coming." And I think that anybody who's out of work in Washington could probably whip up a batch of those, and they'd sell like hotcakes. Okay. Beverly.
Yeah, of course, I agree with you, Bill. Mine is, of course, RFK Jr. for all the obvious reasons. I listened to some of the hearing before the Finance Committee and just completely discussed it again. Listen to him flip-flop, and really, in my mind, it just really goes beyond politics. It was just appalling. You know, how he doesn't understand and see that. And this is American lives, really. And just to see the arrogance in there and the nonchalantness of some of the statements he made, I was just unbelievable to me. So totally the schmuck of the week for me is him.
Every child who has died of measles, that death is on his shoulders and mine.
Absolutely.
And he seemed unbothered, truly.
Yeah, give him castor oil. It'll be good for him. If they're healthy, they won't die. So don't worry.
Right.
Barb.
Matt Hall of Michigan proposing y'all know how I feel about Michigan Republicans. The only thing that's worse is their stupidity is their cruelty.
Yeah.
And this budget just freaked me out this morning going over it. I mean, in knowing how bad it was going to be, but just bit by bit. And this is only partial what I was able to find. And they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about our resources. They don't care about our children. They don't care about our health. They don't care about anything but not taxing their friends. And they're,
kissing Trump's ass too.
Kissing Trump's ass, kissing Betsy DeVos's ass.
Yeah.
Sure. That family is our own Trump. Her brother Eric Prince of Blackwater probably has a great deal to do with the troops being sent into ICE and all of these. But Republicans are really a pox on our nation, and Democrats are right behind him going, well, we're really getting sorry, and we don't have to be so
You're ignoring our norms. Unfortunately, I'm working on a PowerPoint on that, and I'll be ready to roll that out at the conference.
We just have to get along somehow. So but in his fat, ugly, cruel glory is Matt Hall, and that's my schmuck this week.
All right.
I'm going to go with the states of Florida and Texas for getting rid of all mandates for childhood vaccinations. That's insane. Childhood vaccinations are one of the miracles of science, modern science, and saved countless lives, including mine, I'm sure. We don't get polio, no measles, all that's going to come back, and it's going to come back harsh. It's going to take lives, and I don't know. It is so anti-science and so anti just facts that there is something else that animates this. I don't know if it's ideology, some visceral feeling. I don't know really what animates us to move, or these states to move to the dark ages where they know we're going. So this is, again, I can't understand the reasoning for it. So they're my schmucks. They're exposing all of us to danger. And it's going to happen. I mean, germs are going to do what germs do. Diseases are going to do what diseases do. They're going to grow. They're going to spread. They're going to impact. And it's on this administration, all of them, and these Republican governments.
And how ironic is it that basically the success of vaccines has led people to believe that these diseases are no big deal because they're not even around anymore.
Right. Nobody sees anybody in an iron lung.
Right.
Nobody sees anybody in a wheelchair from a disease. They don't see somebody blind from measles. It's just fucking nuts, and it's very scary because it's going to have an impact.
Alexandra Petrie used to be a humor columnist for the Washington Post, and she left to go to the Atlantic a couple months ago. And she had a really peak Petrie column today in the Atlantic where she quotes the Surgeon General of Florida, Joseph Ladopo, I believe is his name, and who actually said when he made this announcement, who am I as a government or anyone else? Who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body? Who am I to tell you what your child should put in their body? I don't have that right. And then she adds, that relaxed attitude about bodily autonomy comes as something of a surprise, giving the state 6-week abortion ban. But this is America where you can do anything with your body unless there's a uterus in it. So there we go.
Wow.
Okay, Alan.
I'm going to say former Congressman George Santos, who is serving 87-month prison sentence in New Jersey in a federal prison there. He's complaining. He wrote a column in the South Shore Press.
He doesn't like macaroni and cheese?
He's complaining it's inefficient here, it's outright chaos, and blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, the prison system is not perfect and there's always improvements to be made, but he's really not the poster child.
He should run to an office and have legislation.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
If there was a dirtbag politician that was just so brazen, he was it. But
yeah, all right. Okay, as one of the hazards of hosting this show is generally you go last on the schmucks, and you better have multiple schmucks on your list because they all get used up by the people who go first. But I did have a late addition. We can't really give this honor to her because she's dead. But Ashley Babbitt, who is now, whoever decided that Ashley Babbitt, an actual traitor who was shot to death by a Capitol police officer during the January 6th riot as she tried to come through a broken window into the speaker's lobby in order to inflict violence upon the lawmakers that were trying to certify the election. She is now being given posthumously a full military funeral with honors.
And suing for wrongful death.
Oh, yeah. Her mother already collected something like $5 million for wrongful death. So,
yeah. And she's going to get paid. The DOJ, there's no doubt about it.
Oh, no doubt. Now, unlike the guy who sold pianos to Donald Trump's casino back in the day, she's actually going to get paid. So yeah. So all right, I think that wraps up another.
You should add to that Rudy Giuliani. I mean,
that's right.
It is. Rudy Giuliani getting the
Medal of Freedom.
Yeah,
absurd.
We didn't even talk about Rudy this week, and we already
isn't he nearly dead?
No, he's got a broken vertebrae, but he's walking around with this kind of bondagey looking corset on it.
That's what happened right after he hit the ground.
Yeah,
that should be his picture if he gets that prize.
Yeah.
To say honor Rudy.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks for being with us. And stop!
For Beverly.
Thanks to our wonderful panel. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Joel. Thank you to me. And as always, Alan gets the last word.
Drive home safely.
Okay.
I always learn.